And would you see your role as assisting us in remembering, coming back to our who we are, like, completely? Or is it different for different people depending on their desire?
So are you asking us if we would help you remember who you are?
Yeah, I guess, like if let's just say I'm committed to growing and becoming more of my greatest expression, which is what we talk about often, right? And then if I have that desire, would you see that as, like your knowing is to help me accomplish that, help me come back into my own greatest expression and close the gap on whatever perceived differences there are?
So what we do is we don't remind you. What we do is we have that anticipation that you know who you are, but you are playing with that toy that we keep talking about called contrast. So what happens is we don't remind you of who you are. We stay in the knowing of all that is all that we are, knowing that you are exploring all the aspects of your beingness. We don't remind you of who you are, but let us give you this example, this analogy to help you understand what we say, that somehow we stand on the other side of the expansion, knowing that you're going to evolve and become who you truly are. But we don't remind you, because to remind you is to not wanting you to experience the contrast. We want you to go all in for the contrast, and we'll see you on the other side. That's the analogy we want to use here, that we don't say, remember, don't do the contrast, come back here. We say, we are on the other side of the contrast, explore it, and come to that anticipation, the light that we hold for you, knowing who you're going to be out of or after this contrast. That's how we remind you. But to us, reminding you is to bringing you to the past. From our perspective, there is no past. It's the mind, your conditioning. Your conditioning creates the past.
Yeah.
The past doesn't exist to us. Your conditioning creates what you call the past. Past is not our vocabulary. We don't have a dictionary that would say there is this word called past, let's explore it. We know that you have had contrasts along the way, but we don't call it the past experience. We just knew that was the exploration of wanting to be here and now. And we want to encourage you that we don't want you to listen to us, but we just want to encourage you that there is no past. Unless you convince yourself that this label must exist for you to be who you are. And that's a conditioning. We don't want that for you. We don't want you to think that you had to have a past to be defined here and now. We want to say, get rid of that label, see it as the exploration of contrast, that you decided to play with it, to revisit the idea of who you are. And sometimes people would catch up with the idea of being the greatest expression of the self after the contrast they've gone through. And sometimes they don't do that. And we are at peace with it. We say we are at peace with it, that because that's your perception of, we're trying to convey what we feel. We don't feel anything, but we feel at peace when you don't want to catch up with who you are, even though you have been experiencing contrast.
Yeah.
To us, you are always free. Free. Free.
Yes.
Free. Eternally free.
Mm.